My name is Sherrele Goloversic. I am the owner of the Book Readers Venue in Humble, Texas, and you're tuning in to So Booking Cool.
So fucking cool.
It's so motherfucking cool to listen to So Booking Cool.
Welcome to So Booking Cool, it's Jewel B. Today's guest is an Army veteran who believes in the motto, when one book closes, another one opens. She is the proud owner of the Texas-based bookstore, the Book Readers Venue. She is Sherrele Goloversic.
Hi, good evening to you. Yes. What is the last book that you recommended someone or what someone recommended to you?
Oh, wow. The last book I recommended, I do this all the time. So I'm going to go with Teach Me by Alexandria House. That was one of the last books I recommended. And then, of course, the customer feedback, you can find that on my IG page. Book recommended to me. Oh, man. So many. But I would say To Hollis and Obey by Sherrele Green. That was a book recommendation. Yeah, it's from the Crown family series. So one of my favorites.
And why did they recommend that book to you? Do you know why?
Well, because she and I share initials, so we call each other twins. So she's Sherrele Green, SG. I'm Sherrele Goloversic, SG. And I'm a Crown family. I love the series. I mean, it has that blend of romance, romantic suspense, who did it. You know, it has that, it grabs you in, it catches you. And so they knew when it was coming out that I would definitely want to read it.
Nice.
With all the other ones too, so.
I imagine you get a lot of book recommendations.
I get a lot of book recommendations and I give a lot of book recommendations, even probably unwanted. But I just feel like, if somebody asks me about a book, we're talking about books. So we would have to make recommendations.
Sherrele, tell us what then makes a good book recommendation?
It depends on the person. It's not a one size fits all. So for me, when it comes to book recommendations, what kind of mood the person is in. Because that'll explain, or that'll help understand how receptive they are to the storyline. So it's the person's mood. I mean, what flavor do they like? Because I find books have flavor, like food. You want something spicy, something a little, softer. And so it's all of those things. So it really depends on the person's personality that I'm talking to. I'll ask what type of movies or TV shows they like to watch, because that also helps. So I can't just say, it's always going to be A, B, C, because it's not.
Love that. Books have flavor. Sherrele, wow.
They do have flavor. They absolutely do have flavor.
Who started your flavor for books? Because you started your love for reading at 4 years old, right?
My competitive spirit. My older sister was going to kindergarten, and I heard my mom saying she would get to read all the time. And I'm like, no, you can't read without me. So that's how it started. Me competing with my older sister, wanting to be able to read before she did.
Wow. Were you in pre-K?
I mean, I hadn't even really started school. I was like 3 going on 4. And I just heard that she was going to get to go to school and read books. And it was like, well, no, I want to read books too. So that was my mission. And Fuzzy Wuzzy Was a Bear was the first book that I ever learned to read.
Now, tell me if this was true for you as a kid, and it might even be true for you now. When you find a book and you really like it, even love it, you reread it. So did you reread that book?
Absolutely. It was one of the first books when I started building the children's section here at the bookstore. Mm-hmm. Fuzzy Wuzzy had to have a place on the shelf, because I've sold them all since, but Fuzzy Wuzzy was a book that I actually had in stock, because I mean, that's where the journey actually started, right? So I brought it with me.
Did that feel like a full circle moment?
It did. The Fuzzy Wuzzy book. Brenda Jackson, because my love for romance and romantic suspense books written by authors of color started with Brenda Jackson. And so all of those things just sort of kind of converged together when I opened the bookstore. So it was just one of those surreal moments.
And how did you discover Brenda Jackson? She's a romance novelist, right?
She is. So, and I don't know if you read it on my page. I've always read romance and romantic suspense. I did thrillers, but I would scare myself to death with thrillers, so I stopped reading those. And so I would stick to romance and romantic suspense. But I wanted to read romance and romantic suspense written by authors of color. And I was like, you know, surely there's something out there with this tone, with the happily ever after. And so I went in search of it, because that was 15 years ago. So I was in my mid 30s before I even found my first romance novel written by Brenda Jackson. I found it from Katie Budget Books here in Houston, Texas. And that was, I mean, that set it off at that point, because then I made it my mission in life. I was like, oh, I'm going to see Brenda Jackson at RT in Las Vegas. And that just, I mean, that is one of those journeys that are part of the journey that led me to the bookstore.
Now, have you gotten to meet or speak with her yet?
Multiple times. I fangirl the first time. I did. And I have my picture with her that I took the very first time. And so each time I've met her, I've actually tried to take a photo with her. I even had the pleasure of being an extra in one of her movies, A Brother's Honor. So yeah, I'm a Brenda Jackson fan. Although there are more people out there that are probably more so than I am, but I am definitely a Brenda Jackson fan.
What a great story and experience. Yeah.
It is. And it's all because of reading. That's what I tell people all the time. You never know what avenues reading will take you. And I know people say romance, romantic suspense. Why? And I'm like, why not? And so it's opened up so many doors, and I've met so many great people because of it.
Wow. I want to definitely talk more about that. First of all, I did notice, and I know others who follow you will notice your love for romantic suspense or romance suspense, right? So what exactly does that mean?
So for me, you know, when there's romance, it's a romantic suspense novel. That means I get the whodunit. So it's not just the love story part. So it does have a love story, but you know, there's some dramas. There's somebody needs to be saved. Somebody, you know, got kidnapped. And so you always get that strong, heroic man that comes in that wants to save her, but she's just as strong and can save herself. And then of course they have their own conflicts, and you know, that's, so I like that part, because we like a happily ever after, right? We want the story to end well, but I do like a little drama off in there, not just always pure romance.
Okay. Yeah, and with the female protagonist, you like her to be like strong and unyielding.
She's strong, but still can show some vulnerability, right? You know, because we're all vulnerable. I mean, so when they make the characters and you can see that vulnerable side of a character, but yet she's still strong, she's still capable. I mean, I think that's more truth to who we are versus just some really extremely hard all the time, or really soft, you know, I can't do anything for myself. So I like that. I guess I would say I like the assertive side. I like to see a strong, assertive female protagonist.
And with male protagonists or male characters, you really value one who loves family, right? Why is that important to you?
Because I love family. My family is extremely important to me, my family, my friends. And so I think when a person can make sure that their family is important to them, and they'll move heaven and earth to make sure that their family is taken care of. And so that I like that part. I mean, that's what I saw growing up. My parents, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, I mean, they always made sure that, you know, family was first. And so I like seeing that in the male characters as well as female characters, you know, because sometimes you'll see a female character who's trying to move up the corporate ladder, and, you know, sometimes they sort of forget. But then I like the fact that if the protagonist, she can remember that, you know what, she's still a strong family woman, whether she has children or not. She still has ties to her family. And
how does your family feel about your journey into founding the book readers venue, for example?
They're excited. I have to say that when it came to opening the store, and even unto this day, my family has been absolutely amazing, extremely supportive. My mother is my unpaid intern who works on the days that I'm not here. I mean, there was never a question, because I think everybody, and I know that my entire family knows about my love for reading, because if I'm not working, I'm reading. So I don't think it came as a surprise that this is what I wanted to do. And it's been something that we've been able to do as a family. My mother helps me decorate, and my grandmother gives me book recommendations, and my best friends, I drag them to events, when I'm trying to get new ideas, or we're doing vending shows, and my siblings help set up tents. So it's really been, although it was my vision, my family has been with me 100% of the way. And so it's ours now.
Wow. I love that for you. When did you start? When did you start the store? And what have been some of the challenges that you had to overcome and just pivot from?
So the store actually opened July 30th of 2022. And the funny part about that is one of my best friends kept asking me, what did I want for my 50th birthday? Because I turned 50 that year. And I said, I wanted my own bookstore. And she was like, no, for real. And I was like, no, for real. That's what I want. And she was like, no, really, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I want a bookstore. And we laughed about it. And then one day I happened upon the spot that I'm in now, and we did open on my 50th birthday. So I did get a bookstore for my birthday. But the challenge was myself opening it. I second guessed myself. Maybe yes, maybe no. Is this the right spot? Is it not the right spot? Is this the right wallpaper? What if nobody buys books? And, so I was one of my greatest challenges in the beginning. Because I didn't have the confidence, because brick and mortar bookstores, they were, as people would say, a dying breed, so to speak. But it never, ever dawned on me to only be an online bookstore. It was always that my vision was, it must be brick and mortar. So I went in head first, and I went straight brick and mortar. I did not open online bookstore first. And so I signed the lease on a building in June, and I opened in July. That's just how quick it happened.
At what point did you start believing in yourself?
What point? Well, it depends on what day of the week it is. So, I mean, I still have my moments today that I question whether or not, I'm doing the right thing. Am I going in the right direction? But it doesn't stay long. Before it would linger a little bit longer. Now it's like, it's just a fleeting moment and I get over it really quick. But making sure that I chose the bookstore in the right spot. And it wasn't the shiny penny that I thought I was looking for. It was, when you look at it from the outside, and it just didn't have that shine that I thought I was looking for, but it checked all the boxes on everything else. And so it was like, okay, now's the time. And I remember as I was standing in front of the bookstore, when I came into the entrance, I just remember hearing God say, if not now, then when? Valid point. I can't go against him. So I went ahead and did it now, because property is expensive. And selling books is not easy. Getting people to know and be aware of books written by people of color, especially romance and romantic suspense books. And so it takes time to build a following, get people to know you're here. So I didn't want to straddle myself with this huge rent, but I also wanted to make sure I was being realistic in my approach as to what I could do. And this space, inevitably, it checked all the boxes. And so we made it work.
Now, when people come to the book readers venue, what is that experience like? What can they find?
So, of course, we have, our romance and romantic suspense. There's a few behind me. I don't know if you can see. So there's a few books behind me. Anything that's on the brown part above the rim, those are all signed copies by authors. So anything, we have that. We have a few t-shirts. We have a children's section. as well as we have a few used books. We have some self-help, cookbooks. Yeah, a little bit of, yeah, we have a little bit of everything. I try to incorporate as much as possible. However, my focus and my niche and my passion is still romance, romantic suspense. So that is the largest section in the bookstore.
What do you find a lot of customers are most interested in, or does it vary?
It varies from day to day. Friday, everybody could want children's books, and Saturday, everybody could want romance books, and Sunday, it could be self-help. And then it could turn completely opposite the very next weekend.
So what do you think influences that?
I think probably life, maybe, current events, what's going on in their lives will, as I stated in the beginning, it's whatever flavor they're feeling. It's like food. You have a taste for Mexican food today, Italian food tomorrow. And it all just, it just depends. And that's what drives what they look for when they come here. And sometimes people have no clue. They just know that they want something that's going to help them escape. And then it's my responsibility to sort of have that chat and figure it out. And that's the beauty of an independent bookstore, because we can take that time to give a little bit more specialized attention to clients when they come in. And that way we can find it, because you don't want them to just walk away with a book or just any book. We want them to walk away with a book that they truly want to read and reread and come back for another one.
And you mentioned those challenges, but what about those successes that you've had so far?
Oh, wow. So we've had a lot of success with book signings. And so it never dawned on me that, I would slide into somebody's DMs or, send a message to an author saying, hey, I'm having a book signing. Would you like to, I'd like to have your book signing here. And they're like, okay. And it was like, okay. Oh, okay. And so we've done really well with the book signings. I mean, obviously we still need to increase that foot traffic, but we've had quite a few local authors come out, which is a great thing, introducing our community to those local authors. One of my favorite is a child author. She wrote her first book when she was 7. She published it when she was 8. So she's done a book signing probably twice here. So I enjoy when she does come out, and she's had an opportunity to visit with other authors. So she's been here twice, where other authors have been present. And that's one of those things that really was driving me toward the bookstore as well, because I don't want the writing to end. So I want the new generations to experience what I'm experiencing, so that that journey continues. And so to see someone, 8 years old with an experienced writer like an Alexandra Warren or a Daryl Bohanna, it was a huge thing. So those things make me really proud. Or when I see 2 authors that come into the bookstore and they sit down and they chit chat and they're sharing information with each other. So they have that knowledge. So it's not always because we're selling books, because authors will come in and they're so very forthcoming and sharing their information and their journey with other authors. So those things have been great.
What is it like to set up an author event?
It's stressful because I overthink everything, and my best friend is here, so I'm pretty sure if you could see her face, she's probably over there nodding. I overthink everything. It's just like, okay, is the table set properly? Is it in the right space? Is anyone going to come? And then, and this is where I have to, thicken my skin, because I just feel like every time I have a book signing, 100 people should show up. And that's not always the case. But regardless, I still put my best foot forward. Even if the first one I did had 10 people, the second one 5, I still give each author the same amount of care and attention, because it's about making sure the public is aware of their work. And so, yeah, we get through it, but I'm tired when it's over, as if I was signing books.
That's funny. What makes you tired? I guess, the overthinking, the energy.
The overthinking, clearly wanting to make it a great experience for the authors as well as the readers. And so, yeah, exactly. Because the bookstore, of course, it's mine, but the whole purpose of the bookstore is to ensure that the community and the world knows about the authors, especially those indie authors of color, People get to experience their work. And so when I'm having those book signings, I want that event to be great so that A, they'll do another book signing here, and B, they'll tell another author about it. And this is somewhere, at least here in the Houston, Humble area, that people will be willing to come to do the book signings.
What advice do you have for anyone that would like to do what you're doing?
First of all, believe in what you're doing. Believe in what you're doing, because it takes time. Beware of the naysayers, because, you know, I heard it, you know, again, brick and mortar bookstores, nobody's buying books, people are not reading anymore. And there's truth in all of it. Every bit of it, there's truth in it. But if it's your vision, and God will give you the provision for it, and just do it. Surround yourself with people that also believe in what you're doing, and that will show you care and support, because you can't do it on your own. Just simply, I would not have been able to do it on my own. My family, my friends, you know, God giving me the provisions to be able to do it. I mean, that was so extremely important, because I was very fortunate that I did not have to take out a bunch of loans. I was able to do it with the funds that I had been saving up. And then you just have to do it. And it's not perfect. It's not pretty. I think I've changed the store around, I don't know how many times. My best friend said today, every time I come to this store, something is different. Well, we're always moving something around, changing something. And I think it's just learning from every event, learning from every day. You sell a book, don't sell a book, because there are days that you don't sell a book. There are days that I don't. There are days I never see a single soul come into the bookstore, but I still am very consistent. If I say I'm opening, I'm opening. So I keep true to my store hours so that people start to see that I am consistent and I'm always here when I say I'm going to be here. So it's just not to get discouraged, just sort of stay strong and tough it out, but cry it out. I mean, because I've had those crying moments. I've had those second guess moments, and I think it's important to go ahead and let your emotions, shine through, and then shake it off and get back up and do it again.
Wait, you're online too, right? People can purchase books on the website? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I am online. My original intent, I'm online because obviously you want to allow people who want to support you that's not in the Houston area. Mm-hmm. But I do, and I'm very passionate about driving people into the bookstore, so that people can come in and have that experience and have a moment and have a quiet time. Because here we have a nice red sofa that you can sit in, get a glass of wine, cup of coffee, cup of tea, and you can quietly read a book if you choose to. It's just it's kind of like sitting in your living room.
Wow, isn't that lovely? Because I was going to ask, how does that? I've never really gotten to ask a bookstore owner or even a bookseller this question, so this is another reason why it's exciting to have you here. So would you mind somebody coming into your store and reading, like, let's say 100-page book, or let's just say a novel, right? Anything that's not a picture book.
No, not at all. Take a seat. Well, we can talk about the book. We can sit quietly. I've actually had somebody come in and sit for 3 hours. It's a quiet space. It's comfortable. I have people come in and take a seat on the floor and they browse the shelves, and it's just, and that's what I want. A lot of times I hear people say, oh, it's cozy. And I like that it's cozy. It's not overly large. I think also with the children's section, I think the children find it a little easier to find something that catches their eye because it's not so overwhelming. And so, kids come in with their parents and they find books just as much as the adults do.
Now, what do you mean exactly when you say that children's section is not so overwhelming?
So I have a section of children's books, and it's just a small shelf. And, it's maybe, 4 or 5 shelves. It's at their height level. So it's not too tall. They can all reach it and they can see the books. And so it's not like when you go into a library and it's like, where do I start? There's just this one area and you go left to right and you can see everything. And I think it makes it, it's a little bit more quaint and, like I say, easy and not so overwhelming. And so they generally always find a book.
Now, Sherrele, when you hear the word readers, or read it too, what do you think of?
When I hear the word readers,
Yes.
you know, a reader can read anything from a book to a magazine, to a newspaper article. I mean, because I'm a reader, and as much as I love romance and romantic suspense, you will find me reading newspaper articles. You will find me reading magazine articles. So I find that readers, you know, we pretty much will read just about anything that catches our attention. I don't think it should be limited to books. What's important is that we're getting in the words. You don't have to read an hour a day. You don't have to sit and read a novel in one setting. 15 minutes a day. I tell people all the time, just give me 10, 15 minutes of your time. Because a lot of times people will come in and like, well, I don't really read. I don't have a lot of time. I only want 10 to 15 minutes of your time a day. And you'll become a reader. Reading does not mean that you're reading a novel in one setting or you read it in 2 days. You can read it over a period of time. What's important is that you're reading, you're increasing your vocabulary. Reading is a stress reliever. It's an escape. And that's what we want. So if it's a newspaper article, read it.
Love that. Thank you for touching on those points. Because, yeah, we're reading all the time, which is why I also want to know, do you think there's really such a thing as someone saying, I don't like books, I don't like to read, it doesn't interest me?
I mean, I get people that come in all the time that says that they will say that, but they don't realize they associate reading with books. I also notice that people associate reading with education, right? So not necessarily reading for fun. So when you say, do you read? They're like, well, I read for school, I read for work. And so for them, once they've read for work or for school, that's it. There's no such thing as reading for fun. So I think, again, it's that personal definition of what reading is. But you're right. People don't realize they're readers, just maybe not to the extent of the person to the left or to the right, but they're reading because they are reading some type of newspaper article or something they found online that interested them.
Now, who is it on for the reader or the consumer to say, I need to find stuff that interests me?
I think we both hold that responsibility, right? So I think for me, I need to listen to the consumer when they come in, pay attention to what I'm seeing online and what people are talking about and what people are asking for. But I also think it's up to the consumer to sort of put that information out there because, you know, they say a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Well, if I don't know, then how can I help you, right? And it could be just 5 or 6 words that can help me find a book that will interest you. But it's just, we have to start somewhere. And, you know, I'll have people come in that say they don't necessarily read. So I give them a book that's 100 pages. I'm not going to give them a 300 or 400 page novel because I'm probably going to lose them. It's overwhelming. So we start small and we work our way up.
You know what? When people come to the website even, you know, did you write your bio, by the way?
I did.
Yeah, it's just so eloquent. It's just so well written. Do you ever have people telling you that you should write a book if you haven't already?
No, I have not written a book. And yes, I have people tell me all the time. People tell me I'm a master storyteller, or, you know, they'll reference my, you know, the About Me page. I sell books. I read books. I don't write books.
Okay. Yeah, you're right to the wow. But I was reading it, and as others clearly, I'm like, wow, what it would be like to read a book from you, you know? And
maybe one day, you know, maybe once I get the hang of this bookstore thing, which, you know, takes a while. Maybe one day I will. When I get to retire from corporate America and all I get to do is the bookstore, maybe I'll write a book or a blueprint on how to open a small bookstore. Maybe I'll do that. Start simple.
By the way, as a bookstore owner, do you get to network with are you like a part of the bookstore owner community, or is there such a thing over there in Humboldt?
There's ABA. There's the Mountains and Plains, and I can't remember what all the acronyms stand for. But there are several. Then, of course, obviously, you have Instagram, Facebook, where you can reach out to other bookstores. I try to make it a point here in the Houston area to patron other bookstores. So I've reached out. I've gone to, I think there's 2 other Black-owned bookstores here in Houston. I've gone to those bookstores, and Katie budget books. So I do spend a lot of time in the indie bookstores, not so much as the big box bookstores. But there is definitely a book association, and there's several. Some is I think one is national, and then there's some that are regional.
And when it comes to romantic suspense shows, what are those that you watch?
TV?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm not a huge TV person. But I can tell you, when I did watch TV, I'm the person that's going to watch NCIS, NCISLA, Hawaii 5-0. So it's the same thing. There's maybe a little bit of a love story there, but there's a lot of drama. And so if I'm watching a movie, it's The Negotiator or SWAT, or I don't know, something is exploding. Somebody got kidnapped, but there's a happy ending in there somewhere. As far as new movies or TV shows, since I don't watch them much, I have no clue what's out there now. Pretty much what I watched is right on the same lines as what I read. I probably have watched Pretty Woman, I don't know, 100 times because, yeah, isn't that every girl's dream, right? With Julia Roberts and Richard Gere.
Yeah, that's a classic. Your day job, do they know that you work in the world of books and that you're a bookstore owner?
Some people do. Majority do not. I think it's my own little secret world. It's a place I come to when that corporate America day ends. This is my escape. This is mine. And I don't want it to bleed into it. Because I've been with them, sometimes, 50, 60 hours in 1 week. So on the weekend, this is mine. So it's not something I share with them at this point. Like I say, a handful of people, probably maybe 10 people out of a global community of 10,000 know that I own a bookstore.
What is your dream author event at the book
author event at the book readers venue? Well, let's see, because I do have limited space. So my dream event would be when I do have a book signing, that we would at least get 40 to 50 people come out over the 2.5 hour period of time and get books signed. That would be my ultimate dream. I do have a book fair that I am making every effort to have this December. It will not be held at the bookstore, but it'll be held at a venue not that far from the bookstore, because I think I know for me it's important to have that in my community. Bring the world of books to my community outside of the library or any of those things, and get these local authors, here on this side of town, so people can recognize that, hey, Houston has a lot of talent. So I do have a large book fair, book signing event in December that's coming up, but at the bookstore itself, definitely, 40, 50 people coming out, maybe even an out of town author, maybe an Iris Bowling or, someone like that comes to visit. I mean, because I have my favorites here with me. Monica Walters, she's been great. Alexandra Warren, Ty. I mean, there's quite a few locals that have been here. And like I say, when I called upon them, they've never hesitated.
And Brenda Jackson will be there next.
Yes. Oh my goodness. If Brenda Jackson came here, I would probably have to shut the doors, do the happy dance, calm myself down, and then reopen the doors. I would probably just pass out on the floor. Yeah, I would probably have to call 911. But yes, if Brenda, oh my God, if Brenda Jackson walked through these doors. And one of the reasons why I fell in love with that first book that I read by her was because the setting was Houston. So that was another reason why I was just like, so even and I devoured that entire series at that point. And it took me a very long time to move to her next family, because I just felt like, man, if I start reading about another family in her series, I'm cheating on the first family. And I didn't want to cheat on those guys because I really liked them. So it took me a minute to move to another series.
You know what? I've asked you your advice, Sherrele, as a professional and as an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. Do you think that there's any advice that could be given to book readers?
Be patient. Be patient. Authors, you know, a lot of authors, they have multiple jobs as well. You know, not every, especially indie authors, not everybody gets to write full time. And don't have them rush their craft. Do book reviews. Book reviews are very meaningful, not just necessarily for the authors, but for other readers. It helps the other readers, you know, whether or not that's a book that they want to pick up. But be kind. Authors are people. They are entrepreneurs, right? So I may own the bookstore, but I'm surrounded by probably 70, 80 different entrepreneurs in here. And they, you know, they have to put a lot of effort into getting, you know, the work out to each and every one of the readers. So we need to show them some grace as well, because we want good work. And so we need to give them that opportunity to give that good work, but we have to support. You know, a lot of times people talk about representation. Representation without support is very difficult. So when authors are, you know, they're having events, you know, it's important that readers show up for those events. Bring a non-reader with you and make a reader out of them, you know, introduce them to that world. It's such a positive world. And people need to know that reading can be fun. Separate, you know, the educational part, because I promise you, even if it's a work of fiction, you are going to learn something. You will absolutely learn something. And so, yeah, that would be my, I guess, my word of advice to readers.
And on that note, Sherrele Goloversic. Yes, Sherrele, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
It was a pleasure to have you on So Booking Cool, and I would love to speak with you again in the future. And I would love to, at some point, check out the Book Readers Venue in person.
You are welcome to come anytime. We look forward to having you here.
Thank you so much.
And
yes,
thank you.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
Yep.
And let everyone know how they can keep up with you and stay connected.
All right, so the Book Readers Venue, and I kept it real simple. So the website is thebookreadersvenue.com. You can also find us on Facebook and IG, same name, the Book Readers Venue. So no matter where you go, it's the Book Readers Venue. If you remember that, you can find us anywhere. We offer online, and we also offer curbside service. So if you see a book online and you really want to come in, but you don't feel like getting out the car, just make sure you purchase it online. I'll bring it out to the car for you.
Wow. Thank you again, guys. Definitely make sure you check out the Book Readers Venue. Again, the website is thebookreadersvenue.com. Until next time, So Booking Cool.
Thank you so much.